Good morning, everyone. Myself Yogendra Sharma. I do have the privilege to interact Mr. N.K. Tyagi, the principal of Rajni Public School Dibai. He is not only a great educationist but also a great humanitarian also. Today, I have drafted some questions to ask him. So let me go to him. Sir, good morning.
Good morning.
Sir, being a versatile genius and a legendary educationist, I have drafted some certain questions which may be in nature somewhat baffling, and I want to be responded by you those questions, sir, in a very precise and smooth manner. Sir, my first question is that what education is all about, and in what way you conjecture the current Indian educational scenario to be aberrating or rather deviating from the right path, sir.
Well, Yogendra, it is well said that the real aim of education is to wipe out the existence of coercive force. So, one who has got well educated, he doesn't torment or tease or turn out to be peevish to anyone. And secondly, you see that the development of character, that is also precisely a major aim of education. Character, you see that character is like a clean slate on which fingers of experience go to write. If once stained, it is stained forever and it could never be retained. So obviously we are getting educated, the upcoming generation, but factually and simultaneously I would like to add up to this thing that I am not satisfied, even to a marginally acceptable extent, with the kind of educational scenario which is going on in our country. Because students are undoubtedly becoming educated, they are becoming techno-savvy, but what could have been the real development of a child is not taking place. Because unless and until characteristic development takes place of a student, he doesn't deserve to be called to have got fully educated. So that is why I am only marginally satisfied but not fully satiated.
Okay, sir. Sir, my second question is, in which direction do you foresee or predict the Indian education is going, and is that conciliating or lapsing something somewhere?
Yes, as I answered you earlier, that the student community must have been subjected, prior to all, characteristically. Now question arises that what does character comprise? Character comprises a kind of etiquette, manner, ethics, behaviorism, patience, perseverance, attitudinal approach, aptitude. These are the essential ingredients of the characteristic approach. So you see that obviously we are making the student, as I answered you earlier, that we are making them to be the techno-savvy, but simultaneously, factually, this is really a grim scenario, somewhat disgusting and disappointing as well, that the student community of today is not turning to be really educated. They are becoming, literate, they are becoming numerates, and they are fulfilling the needs. But the exact need, which should have been above all, and which our forefathers have really been telling us, educating us, that is not getting fulfilled because of the modernity.
Exactly, sir. Sir, my third question. This is absolutely disheartening that some of the youths are committing suicides, either owing to their failure in the exam or at the scolding of parents. Sir, what you deem out to be the basic reason behind that, and up to what extent the parentage and the institutions due are responsible for that, sir?
See, tendency to commit suicide, there is a technical term that is known to be a stadium vitae, weariness of life, tiredness of life. Taking such an extreme step is not quite easy. You see, though people say that it is weak-heartedness, but I don't agree with that. खुदकुशी को बुज़दिली कहना समझ का फेर है, मौत से नजरें मिलाने में भी हिम्मत चाहिए. Those who prepare themselves for taking that kind of a step, they are really bold enough. They prepare themselves mentally. So you see that is purely because of that kind of distress, that kind of disappointment, disheartening, heart-piercing, heart-rending approach, that they feel themselves to be completely vitiated, totally devastated. Nothing looks to be done futuristically, and that is why they become compelled and prepare themselves mentally to take such an extreme step. To respond to another part of your question, that who is more responsible, so I do firmly opine that both parental community as well as the institutional community is responsible equally for inculcating that kind of negative feelings in the heart of a child. Otherwise, you see that this must be the primary aim of an education institution and also the parenting community to make the mental makeup of a student so stronger that even if he or she are having in completely negative circumstances, they are passing the time in total adverseness. But despite that fact, such an extreme step must not be taken by them. Even you see that even if they are becoming inclined to think over that, then that thinking also should have been completely devastated. So both of them, both institution and the parental and the society as well, the trio of them rather are equally responsible for creating that kind of stadium white in the heart of a child.
Okay, sir, you threw light very crystal clearly. Sir, my next question, don't you concur with the prediction of Lord Macaulay in 1835 that India would be able to produce only a mass scale English knowing clerks who would be Indians in names only, but English in manner, culture, and thoughts?
Well, you see that obviously this is grossly self-evident that prediction of Lord Macaulay, who was said to be the moving library, is coming out to be, I think, 100% true. Whatever he predicted in 1835 when he was responding to the British parliamentarians over the bills of why he wanted to introduce English as a medium of instruction in India. So he uttered these words. It was way back on 3rd of March 1835 when he said that I want to introduce English as a medium of instruction in India so that India should be able to produce only a mass scale English learning clerks. And that is happening virtually. It is becoming a practical reality today because we are watching that the pass outs of engineering colleges or even you see that university colleges, what they are wanting, they are simply the job seekers and not the job givers, because spirit of enterprise, entrepreneurship is not being made to them learn at the schooling level, at the university level. You see, there should have been some kind of course content that should make them practically strong. And what is that? That their real interest should be sought for first, and then they must be promoted into that direction in which they are likely to just check out themselves, likely to exhibit themselves in a best possible manner. See, things becomes quite complex or rather intriguing when we try to impose ourselves upon our child. Imposition must not be there. That is also a fault of the institution, but because vocational education is not going on, vocational education is not taking place. That is why you see that students are being made to do what they are not really inclining. And that is why you see that we are producing the force of the clerks only. And Lord Macaulay was predictably correct.
Yes, sir. Sir, you stated about the students that they are job seeker, not the job givers. So, sir, regarding this, my question again, which is that indomitable inhibition, stumbling block in emerging Indian educational scenario, that we are producing only job seekers and not the job givers. No entrepreneurship, no inclination for becoming producers, manufacturers. Sir.
Yes. See, how does the building of a man's persona takes place? It takes place right from the very beginning, at the very conscious outset of the personality of a child. Conscious outset, you may say, when a child enters into class 9 or onwards. Then the slow but steady building up of the mental makeup of a child takes place. So what is happening that at that level we are turning out to be completely academic excellence. We are simply working for academic excellence. Whereas at the same time, it is also mandatory, quite imperative on part of the teaching community institutions that the students must be trained in such a way that they must get inclined to go to varied sides. See that unless and until we are going to potentiate them really, we are not making them self-researching, self-applicating, and we are not developing that kind of mechanism in which the real interest of a student must become public, the students are not likely to perform in a best possible manner. So fact of the matter is that still we are lacunary in the NEP 2020 is also not looking to be completing into that process. That is why I am slightly disheartened from the outcome of that policy, and I am also rather suspicious, though I do not prognosticate anything, but I would like to utter that much of thing that this thing is also not fulfilling that kind of scenario that should have been there, that the vocational education should have been introduced. The subject experts must develop a kind of test for the students after they become, you see, initially qualified in all the subjects up to class 10, and their real interest must be figured out, must be scored out, certain aptitude tests, certain attitude tests, so that their core interests,
Mm.
their potentiality, their capacity, their capability must be worked out, and then only they must be promoted into that direction. But that is unfortunately not happening.
Okay, sir. Sir, my next question. Your gentility experience is ever said to be the best teacher. So, based upon all that, since you are versatilely experienced, having undergone the various vicissitudes of life, what you deem out to be the basic reason behind this general decadence in Indian societal educational scenario?
Well, you see, many of fellows may become angry with me, but truth is always bound to remain truth. This is precisely because of the fact that rather superstitiously, rather unarguably, unscientifically, blindly, we are imitating the Western countries. Their basic and precise aim is simply to eat, drink, and be merry.
Mm.
And it is quite unfortunate to notice that that thing is also coming into India, because we do take ourselves to be the advanced one in case we are following the norms which are being shown by them. It must not be so. What has happened, in fact, is see that we have happened to lose our glorious past. We do not take pride in taking our own culture to be of utmost significance, though the foreigners are recognizing this fact. When the Theosophical Society of America declares this thing unanimously, quite vociferously, that Gita is the only religious book in the world which is having something worth religious philosophy, then we get opened, oh, Gita is so significant. And what we are doing? We are going for perjury in the court of law by taking an oath of Gita.
Mm.
So see that it is critical phenomena that we are not realizing the significance, the magnificence, the importance of those great epics. We do not want to take any lessons from them, whereas they have been written by the most experienced, most scholarly persons, whose ideals, whose principles, whose doctrines should have been followed by us. And that is why you see that we are becoming morally decadent virtually in every possible direction, because we have turned out to be completely selfish and self-centered. Nuclearization of families is taking place, and our selfish motives are virtually going above all. We are not turning out to be philanthropic, to be selfless, or making up our mind to take up certain selflessness. And purely that kind of commercialism, materialism, you see that what decadence is. Well, every human possible activity has gone at an ultimate link with money making.
Mm.
So that is why that we are simply bent upon completely of making money. You see that money works like a black magic in the mind of an alienated profiteer. Money, money and money, without caring of anything for the purity of means. That is why we have become decadent in all possible directions.
Yes, sir. I am recalling the lines of a minister, previous minister, former minister Judev, that he said, money is not everything, but money is something. So, sir, regarding this, you uttered about the students or other humans that we are, regarding India, we are imitating past. So, sir, regarding this, I have a question. What kind of education do you want? Are you satisfied fully, partly, with the kind of education that is prevailing in Indian school, college setup? Or, sir, one more question in this. Do you feel vocationalization need to be given more weightage?
Yes. See, I talked to you earlier also that vocationalization is the persistently pressing need of the hour. See that imposition is not acceptable in any kind or in any shape. Vocationalization means that the core interest of a student must be figured out, particularly the persons who are teaching them, the parenting community also, the society as well, the institutions as well. When after class 10th we are going to draw such kind of tasks in which the core interest of the student are coming out, then that student need to be brought into that direction only. And you see that a student will naturally commit laurels, he will win laurels for each one of us. But because that thing is not happening, still you see what is happening, that is student is interested in that line, but because of the parental wish, because of the teacher's wish, that you must do this, you must do that. So he is simply hanging around, hanging in between, because he wants to do something, but actually he is being made to do something. That is the difference.
Sir, do you still infer any relevance of Gandhian education philosophy in today's scenario? Up to what extent we have deviated from that, and what is the reason behind it?
See, in case you do happen to read Gandhi between the lines, because I respect that persona a lot, Because Gandhi was not simply a human, but he was a complete institution in himself.
Yeah.
And he admitted the truth to a largest possible extent. That was also a bigger courage of him, that he made his persona public. Gandhian educational philosophy always vociferated, opined categorically, exclusively, candidly, unambiguously, that purity of means must be taken care of. See that when the people who have been able to amass a lot of wealth by fair or foul means, when they are going to get the social recognition from all quarters of the society, that is why you see other ones are also going to get inclined that when he is having such a good reputation, he is a goon and he is a money extorter, he is a kidnapper, and he has really been able to amass a lot of wealth. Why should I not? So that kind of things is giving an inclination, moral boost, encouragement, inspiration to others also. Whereas Gandhian philosophy is still very, very relevant, pertinent, magnificent, that purity of means must be given the top priority. Those who have been able to earn through purity of means, that should be the thing. I think one more Gandhian I'd like to quote here, Gulzar Nanda. He was two-time Prime Minister in the age of 94. In 1994, he was the tenant to someone in Delhi. One press reporter was going on when the tangle between the tenant and the house owner was taking place. So what happened that he was 94 years of age at that time in 1994. Gulzar Nanda was being, pushed by that house owner. He was telling that go out, either pay my rent or go out. That journalist listened to him. Even neighbors also came out. The journalist asked him that he is such an old man and why are you mishandling him so badly, so abruptly? Then even neighbors also requested him that okay, he is an old man. Where would he go in this age? We will pay you. That journalist came back to his office and he talked to the chief editor of that newspaper. He showed the photograph also. Chief editor was taken completely aback. He was totally amazed. Where have you seen this fellow? That was that he is our ex-Prime Minister Gulzar Nanda, who has also remained Home Minister and several other governmental portfolios. The chief editor immediately went there and he made the headline next day that Gulzar Nanda is without home. Even you see that when then only government became conscious and government set so many ministers and officers to provide him, but he flatly refused all that. He was getting simply pension of rupees 500 because of his military background. He was not even taking that. And see, he plainly refused all that. That no, I won't accept anything from anyone. So that is the cadre and character of our forefathers. At Gulzar Nanda, you see, when he went on some foreign visit, I remember that I read somewhere between the lines that Indian Home Minister without home.
Yeah.
Because he was not having any home in Delhi. Home Minister without home. So that is the character of that.
Okay, sir. I think our interaction is going in the right direction. Sir, I think it is the most burning question that I have now to ask you. Sir, the youth of today is living in frustration, goes the saying. Sir, what you guesstimate to be the substantial reason behind that? And apart from that, what are the other scarcities that the institutions, parentage is having in training their offsprings or learners?
See, Yogendra, what frustration is? Frustration is that thing that when we are not able to meet out our desired things, then frustration obviously develops. If someone has put in his best possible efforts in some direction and even if he is not going to get that requisite success, then frustration develops. Fact of the matter is that to simply blame the student community for that kind of frustration would really be somewhat biased, somewhat partial things. Because it is the institutional community, it is the parental community that is contributing majorly and significantly to develop frustration among them. There is no use of that kind of parenting. You see that becoming a parent is easy, but being a parent is very tough. So they are not being a parent. Unless and until we do understand the real core interest of our child by interacting with him, by watching him on various activities, by paying a lot of attention towards his activities, towards his inclinations, his propensities, his tendencies, then we don't deserve to be called a good parent. So is the case with institutions also, that institutions must develop that kind of mechanism within the institutional periphery that when a child is coming to take the education, then his real interest must be taken into fora. So that, and only into that direction, even parentage must also be made to communicate that this is the real interest of the child, and in case he is made to go into that direction, then his results are likely to fructify in a best possible manner. But it is quite unfortunate to know that that thing is not having taking place practically.
Yes, sir. People talk about morals, ethics, sanskars, sacraments.
Mhm.
So, sir, I have a question regarding these ones. Sanskar, holy sacraments, are the major ingredients that the emerging youth of today is looking to be missing badly. Sir, at what level do you hold out the institution families to be lacunary or failing miserably, and why? How could this scenario be improved?
See that uh, in case you might have read that fellow Mark Twain, who was a legendary writer. Mark Twain, you might have heard his name.
Yeah.
He was unanimously of the opinion that India is a birthplace of India is the cradle of human race, birthplace of history, mother of legends, grandmother of traditions, and great grandmother of sanskars, holy sacraments. These were the words of Mark Twain.
Yeah.
But it is really very, very disheartening to note that we people are not becoming aware, we are not getting ourselves acquainted with that kind of thing, that what the foreigners are going to opine regarding us. They are not having any preconceived notion in their minds, but whatever they are noticing, they are actually virtually describing that. So you see that why are we becoming decadent? Because we are not giving that kind of mythological, epical givings to them at the very childhood level of them, right from infancy, from childhood, from teenage, from adulthood to younghood. See, they need to be trained in such a way, slowly but steadily, because those always work only in minor form, only in mild form. In case you want to give the dose, you see, wholly, that is not going to work. That rather will prove to be detrimental.
Yeah.
So mild doses must be keeping on giving to them by the parents also. See, need of the hour is that parental community and the institutional community have to work in tandem. They must be in close synchrony with each other. They must simply be keeping on exchanging the ideation of one of them. But you see that since the educational institutions, majorly I would say, not all, but majorly, they are also devoted only for the cause of amassing wealth. So is the case with parenting community also, that they are not having any time for the betterment or upliftment of their child. That is why they are also hectically busy at their domestic affairs. And that is why you see that what is happening, the result, that they are losing their children capable.
Yes, sir.
Children are not obedient, they are completely selfish and self-centered, and they are not respecting at all, neither to the parent nor to the teachers. Because they are taking that this is the materialistic age, commercialistic age. You see this element of materialization and commercialization, we have to negate it. So we are working for that, that goes without saying, but see some kind of gentility, humanity, politeness, modesty, meekness, philanthropy must also be instilled and nourished and nurtured in their heart, so that they could really be the fruitful citizens of the country.
Yes, sir. Sir, regarding this philanthropy, selflessness, I have a question also. Uncompromisingly staunch moral, sacrificial values in joint families, selflessness, philanthropy, strong traditional values is real India that are villages. Sir, what has happened to our social setup in general that these values seem to have become the things of the past? And how could they be revived, rejuvenated, resuscitated, revivified in today's scenario?
Well, you can, if you do have a slightest glance over the pages of past history of India, then we shall witness that simple even high thinking was the motto of everyone. Simplicity was always said to be the hallmark of greatness. In fact, it was said that nothing is more simple than greatness. Indeed, to be simple is to be great. And right now, that simplicity has become a thing of the past. If you watch the student, you will become of the opinion that there are only fewer students who think about their future, but they also become spoiled by joining a bad company. So you see that since our inclinations, our personal wishes are going to take over each and everything, what is happening that we have got completely glamorized with the enchantment, with the mesmerization of money. You see that Bollywood heroes are going to be our icons, our ideologues. Is that the way? That must not be so. Our great grandfathers, they are being forgotten by us completely. Sacrificial values are no more there in the society. Earlier, what happened that people used to have that water plows, shades. They were not having any selfish motive, not any personal motives in that. But today, what is happening that after this westernization of the country, blind imitation of that country, see what is happening that we are working only for the cause of the money, money, and money. There is no harm in case you work for money, but at least some kind of humanity, some kind of integrity must be there. We must also be having some kind of devotion towards our country, towards our nation. Because money, that death is the eternal fact of life. Death is the appointed end of life. Everything could be fast, but death is the appointed end. So you see that it can come at any moment. Nobody knows. Nobody could predict when the death is likely to take place. When a woman conceives a child, it is sure that she will become a mother. She will procreate a child after 9 months. But even that Almighty has kept an utmost secret that when the death is going likely to take place. Even after that, you see that we have completely forgotten it. So education without character is simply good for nothing. Pleasure without work, wealth without hard work, science without humanity. These are deadly sins. And today I was watching that science has really worked as a bane to the humanity.
Yes, sir, it is dread reality you spoke about. Sir, my next question, and that is very burning in today's scenario. Actually, sir, there is general social unrest in today's India. You see, the newspapers are full of rapes, dacoities, murders, cyber thefts, stray crimes, rather than positive news. How do you visualize all that, and why is it happening, and how the scenario could be improved?
See, this is a dreaded reality of today that crimes are taking place in the society. We have to go into the roots of that. You see that what is the most tragical phenomenon of Indian society, Indian community, is that we simply try to find out the treatment without diagnosing the disease. We do not work over the roots. We work over simply the leaves, not on the roots. Whereas the need of the hour is that we have to work over the roots. And what are the roots? What the roots are taking place? The roots are taking place at the institutional level, at the universities level. When the politics is going on, see, politics, they are being made to learn the political scenario right from the very beginning. And what politics is? Politics, as Francis Bacon, it is said that politics is the last resort of a scoundrel. Because the selfish motive are above all. So you see that student community is turning out to be into criminality precisely because of the fact that they are having an absolute lack of holy sacraments, sanskars, and that is why you see that they are turning out to be the criminals. Because they are having that kind of sheer wish that they want to attain maximum without putting even minimum. You see that they don't want to go for even minimally legitimate efforts in order to earn something. But what they want, that they must be able to get it in a jerk. And they are not bothered at all whether the means are fair or foul. So when this kind of mental makeup is there, then you see nothing would happen simply accepting those crimes. And human sentiments, human approaches, emotions, feelings, they have come to a virtuous low, for which we were well known, universally, globally. We were well known for those kind of values. But right now, those values have virtually become dead because of the total mundanely existence is coming to a hell, virtuous hell, because mundanely we have become more faithless than the animals, than the beasts, than these birds, than others. Still, they haven't left their naturality, but we people have left our naturality. अशरफुल मखलूक कहकर अजमतें दे दी इसे, अशरफुल मखलूक कहकर अजमतें दे दी इसे, वरना इस इंसान से बढ़कर बुरा कोई नहीं.
Yes, sir. You stated about crime. Sir, juvenile delinquency is also one of the major vices that is making ground in Indian social setup at a very faster pace. Sir, up to what extent do you rate out the institutions to be responsible, accountable, answerable, and liable for all that?
Well, majorly, substantially. I won't say completely, but substantially they are responsible, accountable, answerable, and liable for all that. Because the institutional atmosphere has also got completely vitiated. The teachers are not being trained, even if they are being trained, but teachers, you see that teacher is a poor creature. He is not being paid accordingly, and that is why what he has to do. He also have to work out those kind of tricks that how could he be able to make a lot of money. So institutional atmosphere is getting vitiated. It has turned out to be a vicious circle in which these kind of juveniles are being trained. What is delinquency? Delinquency means one who is not able to perform his duties well. So juveniles in the court of law, you see juvenile courts have been introduced in India, that just for reforming the juveniles. We need to ponder over very, very deep-rootedly social activists, educationists, philanthropists. They need to come on a commonly accepted platform now that where this upcoming generation is going, in which direction it is going. Otherwise, you see, in the word of Alexander Pope, I might have given you to know that word. Pope was simply of the opinion that the destiny of a nation is always filled within its youth. What a young man thinks today, the nation is also to be thinking on tomorrow. And that is purely because of the lack of character. Lack of character. I would like to cite you an example here that Professor D.D. Kothari, he was the chief architect of the first Indian educational policy, and he submitted his draft to the then Education Minister Chagla in 1966. Whatever educational scenario we are having today, that is precisely because of the efforts of Professor D.D. Kothari, who was a great physicist. In 1992, he was completely bedridden because of some severe physical ailments. He was used to be visited by Professor Yashpal, who was also a good scientist, Professor Yashpal. So Professor Yashpal asked him one day that, Professor Kothari, do you regret that you missed something in first educational policy? He started shedding tears. Yes, Yashpal, I missed very badly one thing. So what is that? That I put maximum possible focus over technicalization, over industrialization, over mechanization, over modernization, but I forgot to put focus over characterization. Today country is having everything but not the character. And this is the most disgusting fact, disheartening, heart-piercing fact. Because he completely decharacterized the student, whatever brilliant he or she may be, whatever a billionaire he or she may be, but if he is not characterized, he is not fruitful, he is completely barren and futile, both for the nation and for the parents and for the society. So that is why you see that character is the main thing that needs to be instilled, nourished and nurtured in virtually every nook and corner, in the blood and veins of the student. And we are not working still over that because I am deplored. You see that I do feel disappointed that when I see that our governmental agencies are not going to work over that, because they are also completely realized with the enchantment of the wealth. Yes, money plays a pivotal role, substantial role in everybody's life, that goes without saying, but at the same time you see that if a student is highly characterized, if he is having the moral values alive in his heart, in the core of his heart, then he could never be innocuous, detrimental either to the nation or to the society or to the parentage. So this is the major reason for all that.
Yeah. Sir, you see the people demonstrating here and there in the country, and when they are asked why you are doing this, they say it's our right. So sir, in this process, I have a question. Rights and not the duties, sir. There is all around commotion, uproar in the majority of the masses that this is our constitutional right, moral right, human right, but none talks of the duties. Sir, won't you agree with me in asserting this fact that we are becoming only rights prone, not the duties prone, whereas duties come first and rights next? Sir, up to what extent do you prognosticate it to be a danger signal, and why?
Surely, Yogendra, I am completely in agreement with you that we are becoming rights prone and not the duties prone. And I do foresee, I do prognosticate that in case the tendency is not changed completely from head to foot, the situation is all set to go from bad to worse. See, undoubtedly this goes without saying that rights are those conditions of social life without which a person cannot think himself to be at his best. Rights must be there, but first duties are there. In case you don't discharge your duties, I don't think you are legitimized in asking for your rights. But it is quite faithless to note that everyone is having flags in their hand, they are protesting, agitating, They are coming down shouting, sloganeering, screeching, this is our right, this is our right. That was why you see in the 42nd constitutional amendment, which was set to be the second constitution in 1976. Prime Minister Indira Gandhi introduced in Article 21A of the Constitution, she added 10 fundamental duties. That 10 fundamental duties everyone will have to discharge before becoming rights bound. So it is also because of the fact that once again, you see, in the core matter, we do happen to see that we are not having that kind of characteristic development, and that is virtually giving birth to each and every vice in the society. And still, we are continuing, we are prolonging with that sort of characterlessness. It is my heartfelt beseechment to our Prime Minister, to our Education Minister, to the CBSE chairman, that please do take care of that. Just introduce you, and I could help them in case they want to seek my opinion for that how could we be able to revive that in case at the institutional level, if we do happen to introduce some kind of religious harmony, some kind of leveling, you see that in case we make them to learn right from the very conscious outset of their childhood that this is our past and this is our present, and you have to make a makeshift to that, I think the scenario will change slowly but steadily. Surely it will change, provided we make up our mind and start to move into that kind of direction. It is directionalization, it is channelization, it is regularization, it is conceptualization, it is formulation that is going to work. But still our governmental setup is not very, very prone to go for that kind of reformatory approach and rather curative approach.
Yeah. Sir, India is said to be a country to be having too many laws and too little justice. What are the flaws? Isn't it the travesty of justice? That the justice is being delayed horribly and the ill-fated victims are being tormented more by the oppressors or criminals.
You're right. You see that law is a general rule for external human actions enforced by sovereign or political authority. Any law without social acceptance and compliance is doomed to fall. Undoubtedly, this is grossly self-evident that we are becoming more legislative and less governed. And law is grinding the poor, whereas rich men are ruling the law. Because of the supremacy of the money, because of the superiority of the money. The ill-fated victims are being oppressed, being tormented, being teased by not only the investigating authorities but the judicial authorities as well. So that is why you see that what an oppressor does, he simply sits idle, just believing, just making a request to that Almighty, to that Omnipotent, that oh Omnipotent, just make this oppressor of mine to be the victim of some ill-fatedness. Otherwise, you see that I don't talk of all the things, but majority of the things, whether it is our policing or it is our judiciary, that has gone into the lap of the corruption. They are simply only devoted only for the cause of money. I don't know where would they go after amassing that kind of wealth. So you see that law is naturally grinding the poor.
Sir, in your answers, you really talked about morality, ethics. Sir, morality can never be legislated, goes the saying. What do you think that are we more legislated and less governed, as you stated in your
Yes.
answer? Don't you agree with this perception that the present ruling establishments are trying to legislate the morality?
That's correct. I do find this thing to be correct to some extent. You see, nothing makes me shocked so much when I watch often saying the Prime Minister or the other office bearers, law will take its own course, law will take its own course. They are not bothered at all that how the law is taking its own course. Law doesn't take its own course. What law takes course? That the victim, the ill-fated poor, he is going to get more victimized. See that, and he is being tormented and teased by them. He is being extorted the money. He is being squeezed. He is being made horrified that if you don't pay that much, you will be put behind bars. What a poor man will do. So you know that we are, obviously, this was the word of our late Prime Minister Kumar when he said in 1994 that we are more legislated and less governed. And morality can never be legislated, though our present ruling establishment, even the opposition also, is trying to do that kind of thing. but morality can never be legislated. Morality will have to be instituted, will have to be, instilled, nourished, and nurtured and anointed in the institutional boundaries, in the parental boundaries, in the social boundaries. Otherwise, the situation is more likely to be grim.
Sir, you talked about democracy, democratic setup. Sir, what you conclude to be the majorly detrimental factor to the present day democratic setup? Would I be exaggerating in asserting this fact in this way that Indian democracy is a merely mobocracy or plutocracy?
Yeah, I don't think I would be exaggerating anything otherwise, or would be prevaricating rather, in case I utter this fact that Indian democracy doesn't deserve to be called democracy. It is a plutocracy. It is a mobocracy. What democracy is all about? Democracy is merely one in which the spirit of equality is strong and in which the principle of equality prevails. Democracy is merely that form of government in which the ruling power of the state is vested not in a particular class or classes, but in the members of the community as a whole. When the Election Commission of India is going to fix a limit of rupees 40 lakhs for contesting a parliamentary elections, could you imagine that a poor fellow who wants to be part of the political setup, could he even think of fighting or contesting an election?
Yeah.
Could he really be able to spend 40 lakhs? So that is a deliberate setup so that the goons, the roadists, the persons who are having muscular powers, money powers, they must come into the fore. And you see that since they are having the criminal mentality, that is why it is virtually a natural scene in the parliaments, in the assemblies, that they are throwing chairs on each other. Are they going for a legislation? This is also equally tragical phenomenal fact that even neighboring countries like Bangladesh and Pakistan, they are having it mandatory, indispensable, that a parliamentarian has to be at least graduate before entering into politics. But it is not happening in India.
Yeah.
Could there be anything more tragical, phenomenal fact that to become a president of India, graduation is not necessary, but to become a peon in some governmental cadre, graduation is necessary. This is really the extremity of the extent. Extremity of the extent.
Yes, sir. You talked about politics. Sir, up to what extent I am legitimized in asserting this fact that we are producing only politicians, not the statesmen? Sir, your take over that.
Yes, it is grossly self-evident that we are producing simply the politicians and not the statesmen. Basic difference between the two is that a statesman always thinks of the next generation, whereas a politician always thinks of the next election. So we are producing because nobody is thinking of the generation, in which direction the generation is going on. They are least bothered about that. See that their point of view, it is point of view that matters. It is not I that matters, but it is your point of view that matters. Their simple point of view is that we must grab the power, we must be the, rulers, and politicians are very shrewd in their approach. In order to become the masters, they pose as if they are the servants, they are the subservients. But they are not the servants, they are the masters. I remember one example, Yogendra, I would like to cite for you. Professor Lal Sharma was the Vice Chancellor of Maharishi Dayanand University, Rohtak. He was also a designated MP in Rajya Sabha. It was way back in 1987 when Rajiv Gandhi was the Prime Minister. He went to England for getting himself treated. He is becoming the victim of some physical severe ailment. He went to England, so he was staying with some friend of him in English Parliament, in House of Commons, House of Lords. What happened in the morning that he was one fellow was coming riding on a cycle. It was way back in 1987. Professor Sharma has written in his memoirs, you could get this thing witnessed. He wrote in his memoirs that one fellow was coming riding over the cycle. He was a hawker who was distributing the newspaper, but he was having a very good personality. So what happened when he came, then Professor Sharma asked his friend that, please, I want to talk to this fellow who is a hawker, please just call him. That friend of him who was also an MP in the House of Lords, he called that fellow. Both of them were introduced by that fellow, a friend of Lal Sharma. See what he uttered. When Lal Sharma was introduced by him to that fellow who was also an MP of House of Lords and distributing the newspapers, riding on the cycle in the morning, then he said, oh, Professor Sharma, why are you underestimating yourself? Why are you undermining yourself? You are not simply the MPs, you are the kings, you are the lords. I am the MP who is riding on the cycle and distributing the newspaper. And please, this time people will get late for reading the newspaper. In case you want to act with me or to interact with me elaboratively, then please give me some other time. I'll come to you in my spare time, but this time I'll be sorry. So that is the character of the English people. That he said that you are not simply the MPs, you are the kings, you are the lords.
They are the real
That's
statesmen.
realist.
Okay, sir. Sir, one more question. Language is also one of the core issue that has remained in the hem of controversy right from the beginning. Sir, in NEP 2020, it has once again been dictated that primary education must be given only in mother tongue. Sir, do you oppose or uphold this view or prefer to remain stagnant?
No, to be very frank with you, frankly, really and rightly speaking, I'm not in favor of the government. That government is going to introduce that you must take primary education in mother tongue, because English is the future of the world. See that in case we do happen to have a slightest glance over the history of past period of ours, we become the opinion that Dr. Radhakrishnan was always the great supporter of English, whereas Mahatma Gandhi was the opposer. So at the time when Hindi Code Bill was introduced, see, both of them were at loggerheads. Gandhiji wanted to introduce Hindi as a medium instruction all over the India, but Radhakrishnan opposed it. So fact of the matter is that English is the future of the nation and of the globe. Life today is governed and conditioned by the offshoots of English, and it is really very difficult to imagine existence without learning it. So English is the persistently pressing need of the hour, and we need to train our child from the very conscious childhood level in English. Hindi and other provincial languages could be taught as an additional language. No problem in that. I must also take pride in speaking my own language. But at the same time, you see, it would really be very disastrous in case the older system is revived, that English should be taught at class 6 level. This is not good. I do not support that.
Being a multilingualist is not bad.
Language is always sort of the dress of the thought. This is a well-known phenomenal fact, this is a natural fact that I am supposed to express myself better in my own mother tongue. But in case I am speaking or managing to speak in good English, then that means that I am a multilingualist. And there is no harm in case students become multilingualist.
Yes.
But English is the future of the country and future of the nation, of the globe.
Yes, sir. Sir, in our country, police is always blamed. Even judiciary is also blamed. The main law implementing body, the police, and the judiciary are always the boon of contention. Sir, do you find any policing to be least or marginal, or fully satisfying, and also who will judge a judge? For example, in RUC murder case, the sessions convicted the accused parents with capital punishments, whereas it was acquitted in toto in the high courts. Why this much of vast distinction? Same witness, same files, but the conviction and exoneration. Amazing, sir.
You see, it will be somewhat misleading to generalize the things. I cannot say that entire policing is simply worthless or useless, or entire judiciary is completely worthless. No. But we have to take into view the majority view. And the majority view is, you see, that I just read between the lines, I still remember that famous verdict of the Allahabad High Court judge, Justice Anand Narayan Mullah. In a verdict, he made this very categorical statement that Indian police is an organized, licensed, trained and weaponed group of the goons, of the criminals. Though it was virtually opposed, negated by so many police organizations came to protest against that. But despite that fact, you see that that goes without saying that our judicial system and police system is not up to the mark. Justice is going to be delayed so enormously that justice virtually loses its meaning. Police is also, you see that since police is not being monitored at every level, police is not being trained in such a way right from the very beginning that they take up their task as morally, characteristically, mundanely, but once again that thing comes into the core issue that they are also completely bent upon making more and more banks without caring even a fig. Those who have the responsibility of implementing the law, in fact, they are doing that. And right now you see that even Justice Gogoi, Justice J.B. Gupta, who are the retired judges of High Supreme Court, they are opining this thing very categorically. You see in public platform that justice at higher level simply means for the riches and not for the poor. Not for the poor. So could there be anything more tragical? This is really a very absurd fact that our governmental setup must work infrastructurally, must work stupendously, you see, to restructure these things. Otherwise, the poor and the downtrodden, the proletarians of the society, they are really feeling themselves completely grinded under the hands of the law. And the situation is likely to turn more worse in case some revolutionary change, some resolutory change are not made at the ground level platform.
Yes, sir, it is happening in our country. Sir, my next question about adult franchisee. Sir, adult franchising has remained a controversial issue. What do you think lessening the age of enfranchisement was the right decision of the government or not, and why?
See, Yogendra, that adult franchisement was in the ham of controversy at the time when the draft of the constitution was presented to the then Constituent Assembly Chairman Dr. Rajni Prasad on 26th of November 1949. See, so many people came to favor Dr. Rajni Prasad because he was completely against the adult enfranchisement at that moment. Because his most acceptable plea was that first we have to educate the children before giving them franchisement. They must be made to understand what really the democracy is all about, what system we are going to be. Unless and until they don't grab the meaning of the education, they do not understand what the democracy is all about, how would they be able to cast their vote rightly? C. Rajgopalachari also came to favor him. There were certain other fellows also, K.M. Munshi also, that they favored him. But unfortunately, he was not listened to that. When Rajiv Gandhi government lowered the age from 21 to 18, then I also spoke vociferously against it, that this is not good. Franchisee age must not go to 18 because you see that will naturally create some kind of havoc, or the people could simply be seduced or dosed, or they must be enticed, or they must be given some kind of greedy, some kind of lucrative offers. And you see that is happening in our society, that the votes are being caught just for the cause of money. Those are being, we are not casting our vote, we are rather voting our caste.
Yeah. Yeah. Sir, we see unrest in our country everywhere. So, as per your ideology, what has remained to be the major destroyer of Indian social setup, and why?
See that once again that thing comes into the limelight, into the substance of that, into the gist and elixir of that we are becoming totally bereft, totally devoid of our sanskars. And that is why the social unrest looks to be in general. We have become so much greedy, we have become so much enticing, craving for wealth. Incessantly you see that day and night we are just keeping ourselves busy that how could we be able to make a lot of wealth. See, we are also least bothered regarding the fairness of the means. And that is creating completely social unrest. Even the upcoming generation, you see, they are just anathematizing their parents. They are cursing their parents. What you have done for us? You have just procreated us. Because see that every parent, irrespective of his financial status, tries to make the best possible facility available to his offspring. And the children of today are becoming so much selfish, self-centered, self-styled, self-comforted, that even they are not taking it for any kind of recognition. But what they want, everything should be made available to them at a stretch. They don't want to pay even minimum requisite attention towards the hard-earned money of their parents. They are completely spendthrift. You see, they want to maintain a lordly style of living. They spend money lavishly for maintaining a lordly style. So that is the thing that training to them is not of such kind. And we are watching the outcome.
Yes, sir. My next question is about the institutions, governmental or private institution. Sir, it is generally noticed that the only IITians and IIMians are in demand, whereas the private engineering and medical colleges are having better infrastructure, but the demand of their pass outs is very dismal. Why, sir?
Well, it is precisely because of the fact, you see, that IITians and IIMians and the pass outs of government medical college, they are more in demand. Because you see that though the private colleges are always having a better infrastructure than that, but the kind of staff which they are recruiting, just in the name of the paucity of money, what is happening that their professors are not making their students prepare to go beyond their course content. The very mission of the professors of the private colleges is simply confined only up to the completion of the course. Whereas professors who are appointed at the governmental level, in fact, they are having much to think beyond their course. You see, I'd like to cite an example that it was back in 2014 when I went to Hotel Ashok, when Kapil Sibal was the HRD minister. It was a common question there. And I responded to them very vociferously, very exclusively, candidly, unambiguously, that professors of IITs, IIMs, medical colleges and governmental sector, they prepare their students to go beyond the course. They make them adventurous. They make them self-researching, self-applicating. They make them to go beyond risk-taking capacities. They do make them prepare mentally to take up the risk in life so that they could be able to make some kind of constructive advancements. But at the private schools, private colleges, you see that the very limited mission of them is anyhow to get the course completed. So you see, this is not good. Fact of the matter, and that is why they are in demand. Because, and every invention is taking place at governmental sector.
Yeah.
Because of that, see that sometimes basic infrastructure you will have to make available. And the staff, the community, the teaching community should be bruised along. They must be trained in such a way that they prepare the upcoming generation to go beyond their courses. And then only they will become in demand.
Yes, sir. Sir, NCRT and CBSE, both are putting focus on experiential learning and critical thinking. Being an educationist, do you also support this view or simply deny?
Well, you repeat your question?
Sir, NCRT and CBSE both are putting focus on experiential learning and critical thinking. Being an educationist, do you also support this view or simply deny it?
No, I am completely in support of that. See, experience is always set of the good teacher. Ethically, professionally, I am more experienced than you. That is why I am likely to know better. And in case you are in a receiving mode, obviously you will accept this thing from the core of your heart, that I am likely to know better than you, though you may be highly educated than me. So experience comes with the passage of the age. So what I want to make you feel that as CBSE and CRT are putting focus over experiential learning, then that is undoubtedly a very, inciting, very encouraging step of them, and I am completely supporting them, that experiential learning always plays a very pivotal role, very substantial role in everyone's life.
Yes, sir. Sir, our interaction, our discussion is proving to be very large. Yes, sir. My last question. The criminals or political nexus, or rather criminalization of politics is playing havoc in the society. Sir, what do you think, sir, that this politicization of criminals is also diminishing the legislature very miserably? Your take over that. And sir, one more thing, could you score out a few things that are generally not taught to the learners in Indian schooling, whereas they ought to have been taught?
Yeah, you see that. I would like to answer your second question first. Generally, what is not taught is at the schooling level to the students. They ought or they need to be taught at the schooling level that ups and downs are the part of life. We must make them prepared to face the odds in life. We must also, give them such kind of skilling and upskilling of that life never gives second chance. That is why they have to take up the maximum possible care, maximum possible caution while going for some kind of venturing in life. There must not be left any stone unturned. So that's correct. These kind of things need to be taught to them at the schooling level, and also they must be made to understand that they haven't dealt yet with the creature like boss. It is a well-known dictum that boss is always right. They haven't yet got any kind of dealing with the boss, but naturally they may have to deal with the boss in case they do not take up their credentials at high level, so that they become. Second thing is that what happens at institutional level, they just keep on jiving with the studious students, those who are not very mischievous in their approach, but they are simply inclined only for the cause of their studies. So they must be made to understand that tomorrow you may have to work under them.
Yeah.
That is why don't treat them in this way. Second thing, you asked that criminalization of the politics. Yes, that goes without saying that India is going to get a very negative respect in the world community because of that. And also you see that when these kind of persons are going into parliament or into the assemblies, whose upbringing has been in such a way, in a criminal background, then are they likely to do anything better than that? They are showing their real characters in the parliament, in the assemblies,
Yeah.
in which they have been brought up. So you see that it is our political setup which has to see that these kind of persons should not be allowed to enter. And once again, you see, holistically, summarizingly, concisingly, I would say that in case the judicial setup and the policing setup is not made stronger, unless and until the people are going to get a faster justice in the more legitimately genuine terms, in a more reasonably acceptable manner, the things are all set to go from bad to worse. Our future is very, very grim. See that this is an example which I would like to quote for you, just for your sake of knowledge, that in 1947, when Indian Independent Bill was being discussed in the British Parliament on 2nd of Feb 1947, you could Google that, I still remember, I read between the lines. Clement Attlee called Sir Winston Churchill to share his thoughts, since he had spent more than 20 years in India and he was supposed to know India better than anybody else. Winston Churchill started his career in journalism from Bombay only. So he called Winston Churchill that right now the resentment among the masses, the discontent among the masses is so much that they seemingly and possibly there is no way out but to give them independence. So what do you think? Should we give them freedom or not? Churchill spoke to the all British parliamentarians jointly in both the houses, House of Commons and House of Lords. He said this thing very categorically, you see, I'm telling you word by word, that Attlee and all the British parliamentarians, the cultural heritage of India is unassailably matchless, self-evidently matchless. There are thousands of saints, monks and hermits who are still in self-imposed reclusion, who are doing penance in deep forests, who don't want to make themselves public, who are trying to find out the real meaning of life, the life posthumously, and whose spiritual knowledge is no less than Jesus Christ, whom we consider to be the incarnation of the Almighty. But this average Indian is a bloody brute that needs to be contemplated, that he used the word bloody. Bloody brutes, uncivilized, boorish, rustic, they are having lassitude, they simply understand the language of Cain. Majority of them. We have made them learn how to administer, we have made them learn how to construct, we have made them learn how to civilize. They are not having any civic sense also. So you see that if this is my considered opinion, whatever I am uttering is going on record, it is becoming history. It may or may not come true. But it is my considered opinion that if the resentment among the masses is so much that right now there is no way out but to give them independence, you go for that. But within the vicinity of 50 to 100 years, you might be required to go and rule them again. And 100 years have not yet gone by. And the social unrest, economic disparities are playing havoc in the Indian societies very much. I am apprehending possibly a civil war may take place, because this kind of communal confrontation is not good. This kind of caste confrontation is not good. People who are sitting at the top levels, they must also realize that their identity is also going to be endangered. It is going to be jeopardized if the nation is not safe. So they are not having nation. I told you earlier also that Jack Ma, who is the richest man of China, he said a very derogatory thing regarding Indians. He compared Indians with the monkey. He said that in case you put bananas and money in front of the monkey, then simply monkey will pick up the bananas, because he is not aware that bananas could be purchased with the help of the money. So is the case with Indians also, that in case you serve with them two kind of interests, the nation interest and their personal interest, then I am 100% sure that the majority of Indians will simply go for their personal interest and not for the national interest. And that is the thing which I am telling repeatedly, which I am trying to highlight, where I want to make my you see that rahabars, the anumas, they must get aware of this fact, that in which direction we are going. तुम जिस्म के खुश रंग लिबासों पे हो नाज़ां, तुम जिस्म के खुश रंग लिबासों पे हो नाज़ां, मैं रूह को मोहताज कफन देख रहा हूँ. Thank you.
Yes, this was the interaction that took place between us, and neither exaggerating nor mincing the words, I can say that it was very fruitful, and it will not be beneficial not only for me but for the viewers also who would view it who will visualize it. Thank you.
Thank you.